Okay. So I'm keeping it very casual. I'm not making a very formal presentation. Uh, this is sort of a glimpse into how I map the data. I'm not saying it is a recommended way to map or this is how everybody should map. This is just a collection of information of what I have collected while mapping data. So just to give you some background on what is the motivation for doing this. So firstly, I've been an OSM mapper since around I think 2000. I think I need to update it. I've been mapper since 2009. So now it's 2026. So actually 17 years. And I've been mapping usually roads. And wherever I've stayed, I've mapped the roads around that. Then in around 2021, we started an enterprise mapping platform for an organization where I was basically living with urban roads and all its problems every day for almost 2 years. So I was either editing it, I was correcting it, I was figuring out how we could process it, or I was figuring out what we can do with that data. So when I left that organization, I was kind of burnt out. I no longer wanted to work with urban roads. But I love OSM too much. I can't stay far away from OSM roads. So I thought, what else can I do? And around a year back, there was a big open data released by the government of India, which I really like that they release data in the open. They released the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana released a lot of open data under the name of Geo Sadak. So across rural India, they have released data sets of settlements of various road segments planned as well as actuals and so on. And I never actually got time to look at it into detail. So I thought that now is a good time to look at this. I was also questioning whether this data is good enough. Why? Because I've worked with governments before, I've worked with government data, and often I have a healthy skepticism of how good it actually is. So that's also what I wanted to test out. And more importantly, I wanted to see, can I use my learnings from enterprise mapping into my personal OSM mapping? Because there are a lot of things that you do differently when you are doing it in a large team. You have a set of tasks which you need to complete. You need to plan of what you are going to do when. You need to also figure out which are the most high priority items, right? So for those who don't know, the PMGSY, it's a mouthful, the GeoSadak dataset, it is quite vast. It is present almost across the country. There are a few places where it's not there. And this is the dataset on Mapbox. So the ones in yellow lines are the data from the dataset, and the black lines are from OSM in the base map. So as you can see, there are still today, there are a lot of places where the data from the dataset has not come into OSM. Now, one can actually check whether this is something which is there on the ground or not, and that is what I was going to do one by one. The challenge with which I was facing, or I had put a challenge or limitation on myself, is I have to answer these questions. Where should I map? Because I didn't just want to map where everybody is mapping. Now in India, you have large companies mapping across the country. Earlier we had Facebook, that is Meta mapping. Now they have stopped. We have TomTom mapping. Then we have Ola, who is doing the mapping. Then we have Swiggy, who's doing organized editing. Then I'm also aware that a few other companies are doing it, and there are a lot of users of this data across the country. But if you notice, most of them are focused in the urban centers because that's where they're using this data, and therefore all their efforts are going there. And I can understand, nothing against them. So then I asked myself, why should I spend my time and effort where everybody else is doing it? I should contribute my time where it will actually be useful. And therefore, the focus on doing it in rural areas. So now I had to find areas where nobody else is mapping. Then was the question that if you look at the country, if you remove all the urban areas, something like 92% of the area of the country is there. How do I focus where my effort should go? Right? Then I also need to make sure that just because I want to map something, I can't map it. I need to have supporting information. Right now, I'm very much a armchair mapper. Like barely maybe 2% of my mapping will be on the ground. So I can map anywhere in the country, so I still need to focus, right? So these were the challenges or limitations which I had. And then I thought, I am a GIS analyst by training. I can use my GIS skills. So let me do that. All I need is basically existing roads from OSM, Then I need the settlement layers from SOI, because why map where there's nobody? So let's map all the villages which are there, and my GIS skill sets. And what did I do? Very simply, I just took the india.osm.pbf from GeoFabric, put that in a PostGIS database. Just took the roads from there. Then there was a SOI toponyms which Arun had shared a few years back. That is something, a CSV file with a lot of names from Survey of India. I don't know how good or bad it was, so I had to look at that as well. And I put all of that in the same PostGIS database. Based on this, I ran a simple buffer query of all polygons which don't have a road, or rather all villages which don't have a road within 500 meters of that village, right? Because obviously there will be some villages which don't have a road even today on the ground. So I said, let's keep 500 as a happy buffer. And then I applied a spatial filter of the Maharashtra state boundary. So Maharashtra state in the SOI toponyms has something like 75,000 points, and out of them some 42,000 points were not mapped, which was a big surprise to me as well, right? So now I have point location data of all these points which I can look at. Now that number is huge, and how do I track all of this, right? And additionally, we have the PMGSY dataset, which again Arun has put on Mapbox, which I could use. So to actually track my status of my task, I said instead of following Jira or one of those things, let's use MapRoulette, because that has a very simple interface. And sort of a point to everybody is that many of us only use MapRoulette when we are doing a task set by somebody else. But MapRoulette also allows you to set your own tasks. You can say that you can apply a filter, export data, push that into MapRoulette and create new tasks. And that's exactly what I did. So these are the, this is the task which I follow, which I basically I'm trying to do from August 25, 2023, where I'm going through it slowly whenever I get time. So whenever I have some time and I don't know what to do, that is what I go and edit. And as you can see, I've barely finished some, like 87% of the tasks are still pending. Now, this is not a challenge or please come and edit this, because I'm fine editing it myself. But if you want to contribute, you can go ahead as well. So when I edit this, how do I edit this? When you open up your MapRoulette task, it allows you to either open it up in ID editor or JOSM, and I tend to use JOSM for editing. Why? Because I don't know, somehow I find that a lot of rules set in ID editor are sometimes just plain wrong. I'll give you an example. If you are, say, mapping roads in Kolkata, where they cross all the tram tracks, no matter if you just change one line, it will throw you 1,000 errors. Now, I'm an expert mapper, but still I don't like that. So I said, why go after something which is giving me information which I don't need, which is giving me validations which I don't need? Let me just use a simple tool for editing. Another benefit is that I can download a large area in one go when editing in JOSM. With ID editor or something, every time you zoom and pan, new data comes in. Usually when you're on a good connection, it doesn't matter. But if you're somewhere where connection is not good, it's actually helpful to download a large area in JOSM and start editing. And what happens is when you're editing urban areas, rural areas where there are no roads, often you will have to zoom in quite a lot. So you'll have to zoom into an area of, say, 10 kilometer by 10 kilometers to actually go and edit. Sorry. So that's what you will end up having to do. So that's why JOSM is an excellent tool for this. But can you just trust your PMGSY data? And my answer is no. And I'll give you some examples of what happens. So if you look at the data on top of satellite base map, you will clearly see that there are a lot of segments in the data set which don't exist on the ground. One could say that, okay, these are proposed roads, but actually in the data set itself, roads have been marked as proposed. But the yellow color is the road which is not a proposed road. So this should be an existing road, but it's not there. So I don't know whose fault it is, but since I'm not on the ground, I'm not going to go and add this data set, right? So these are the kind of things that you can face. And very often you will have to go through multiple different base maps. So like you can see, I have both the Bing map and the Esri world map, which is switched on. Like I can toggle between them to figure out, just to confirm that this road does not exist there. Another thing which I've noticed is that all of these road segments have names associated, but the names I found are often like, I'm not even sure why those names are there. Like for example, you will see this road which is going to nowhere, but it has names of 2 villages. On what basis those names are there, I don't know. Therefore, again, because I'm not from that area, I don't know any ground situation, I don't tend to enter the names. And this is one place again where that validation comes and troubles you, because it says, okay, you entered a tertiary road, it does not have a name. Yeah, it does not have a name, I don't know it, but I can't really do anything with that. Another thing which I have seen is often the alignments are wrong. Like for example, here, I'm not sure whether it's a barrage or it's a dam, but clearly there's a road going on top of it. But the alignment of the road in the data set is completely wrong, right? And these are the kind of issues which you can face again and again, and that is where you have to apply your brains. So in fact, it's very therapeutic for me to actually apply my brains for something like this, where there's no pressure. Even if I'm wrong, I'm actually mapping something which didn't exist, somebody else will come along and correct it. But you can apply your brain and sharpen your brain slightly by giving these kind of thought processes instead of just tick, 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 and digitizing. Then the question is it any good? Is there any value to this data set? Why am I still using it after so many months of mapping? Well, there are definitely a lot of uses for this data set. Firstly, when you're zoomed out a lot, it's very difficult to make out roads. Like for example, the blue squares are the vertices of the existing roads in OSM, and the others, like I can maybe make out that there is a road somewhere in between, but there's no road in the data set, so I don't go along and edit it. But if you can see in the northern section, there are a few segments which I could digitize. So this is a good indicator of where I can start looking into detail. So at a synoptic view, at a zoomed out level, I can then see, okay, I need to possibly look at these areas where settlements are there, or where this road is possibly is, to go and start editing. Another thing, as I mentioned, is, this is the thing. It very clearly shows me that these are the possible areas where I should look at for editing. These are the yellow ones where the data is in the GeoSadak data set, right? So again, I could use this as a indicator that, okay, maybe this is where I will zoom in and start editing, and actually look at whether there's a road on the satellite base map or not. Another excellent use of this is in hilly and forested areas, because like especially in the Konkan belt in Maharashtra, where there are a lot of hills, you can't even make highways out, is what I've noticed in the satellite imagery. So something like this is great for finding out village roads, because you can sort of make out in certain sections that there is a road, but you don't, even if you zoom in, you can't make out the alignment properly. So if you can make out the road in satellite imagery in sections, you can sort of connect them using this data set. So overall, I would say that this data set is not completely negative, nor is it completely positive. There are pros and cons to this data set, and you should look at it while editing. At this conclusion, what I would say is that I would not be able to do this editing without a tool like MapRoulette. And that's why I would suggest all of you, if you have a particular itch, I know like some people only edit data for cycling routes. Somebody else only puts in POIs of, say, toilets for women's safety, like you had mentioned. Or somebody else might just put in some specific shops. If you have these kind of ideas and itches which you want to scratch, you need to have a tool like this to track your progress. Why? Because you will get distracted very easily. Like at least I do get distracted, that okay, I will find this, okay, let me go on fixing this, let me go on fixing that, and slowly I get away from my intended target completely. So you should definitely use a tool like MapRoulette for your, as your personal task manager. Of course, that task can be made public, and you can share it with your friends and others in the community, and they can contribute. But personally, follow that. Secondly, I would say that the GeoSadak data set should be used, but use it with care. Don't blindly trust it. In fact, I have seen some enterprises just directly use that shapefile as an export and do routing on it. And I had to tell them that please don't do that. There are things which are wrong there. So don't trust that data set completely. In fact, trust something like OSM, which has been validated at some level at least. I know a lot of people do editing using rapid editor where they're just selecting and approving the lines which the AI has suggested, but at least that is there to some level which can be validated by somebody else. The GeoSarak dataset cannot be used without any validation at all. Okay, so that was my time. Thank you. Any questions? I think I am a little bit before time, so any questions? If you have any questions, you can catch me offline. Thank you.